Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great, Kevin. How are you doing?
Doing good to see you. It's good to see you. I'm actually
Always.
having a moment of how it's not actually hope because the season is, for all practical purposes, over. But the Mets are actually winning.
We meant all practical purposes.
Well,
Have you done the math?
we're only what 6 games out on the wild card. It's over. But I'm
Well, one can dream.
I'm a Mets fan. What can I tell you?
Yeah, that's good.
Um, so a couple of things I wanted to talk about today. One, the big thing was there were two stories that have run this week that in some ways struck me as sort of contradictory, but both focusing on basically the same phenomenon. One was a Wall Street Journal piece that I actually had on Morning News Beat, and it was about how physical retail is actually a bright spot for commercial real estate right now.
Mhm.
That there's a lot of problems, obviously. There's office vacancies, people have not come back to work, which affects other kinds of businesses, which affects the tax base, creating real problems. But they've managed to, but physical retail is great. Then there was a Fast Company story that basically focused on the problem part of it, and they talked about donut cities and the decline of downtown. And in focusing on the donut, they actually focused on what I would think of it being as the hole in the donut, right? Which is all the problems I just described. But in some ways, and I love Fast Company, but I thought that they missed or didn't focus on the really interesting part of it, which is the donut itself, right? Which is, if we're going to follow the metaphor, that's the tastiest part of the donut, not the hole. Right? It's the one it's the part that has flavor, but it's also, to me, that's where the opportunity is. That as cities evolve, in some cases at the moment devolve, but they'll come
Right.
back. I mean, it's not like cities are going away. There's all sorts of opportunity being created in suburbs and exurbs, places where people are living more and more, working more and more, and therefore, because they still have something of an urban orientation, they want the products and services and amenities that cities would provide, and that's a great space for retailers to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at obviously the pandemic shift kind of pushed everybody out of their offices because we couldn't be near each other. So we had to go out to the suburbs and the exurbs. You look at kind of now that many folks have gotten used to working from home. Many folks preferring to work from home despite their employer's preferences to have them in the office more. That's an entirely different conversation. But yeah, I mean, this opportunity has been created over the last couple of years that puts more people in the suburbs for more time, right? Suburbs and exurbs, right? Like, whether if you're working a couple days a week or a few days a week in the office, that means you're working a couple or a few days a week from home. That's time at home. That's time in community, that you and workers like you weren't spending before. So that does create, this big shift in opportunity, for retailers that are in great locations, in these areas, to offer, a range of services and products and experiences to their customers that, there's just more opportunity to capitalize on that and more ways to capture that, that customer focus, that customer dollar. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity now.
I mean, we live 3,000 miles apart, right? You're in the suburbs of Seattle. I'm in the suburbs of New York City. And I know here there's, Tuesday, Wednesday, and listen, we are 1 hour and 1 minute by train into the city, right? And traditionally, this is a bedroom community for New York. People would commute to the city to go to work. That's when we first moved here 39 years ago. That's what we did. My wife and I both commuted to the city. I haven't done that in a long time, but still Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays here, the train station, our parking lot is packed. But Mondays and Fridays, it's pretty empty. And which just, it's to me, that's visually a proof of what's happening. But those people who on Mondays and Fridays are not commuting to the city, I'm not sure they want to spend the hour or plus that they're saving, then I'm not sure they want to spend it shopping. They want to be able to access, in the case of, food stores, the kinds of amenities, whether it's pickup, delivery, whatever it happens to be. They want to be able to access those kinds of services so they can actually really enjoy the time they're at home, as opposed to having to, forgive me, brick and mortar retailers, but waste it necessarily going to the store.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that, retailers in general have a big opportunity to enhance their overall customer experience, to, rethink elements of the shopping experience, right? Like make the routine easier,
Right.
right? Make the exploration and adventure more exciting, right? Increase the value in areas that customers need it, around health and wellness, around culinary education. There's just so many opportunities for a retailer to kind of rethink the value proposition. And, a historical value proposition might be in a bedroom community, right? That the retailer is, just by being there and being close to the home, is servicing the routine needs and stock up trips, and even in some cases doing a decent job at answering the what's for dinner tonight question, or at least somewhat answering that. And that's a set of capabilities that were important, given where people were and where and how they spent their time. But now that they're spending more time closer to the store, what a fantastic opportunity to open up more services, more capabilities, and just become more vital, to their customers. And not vital because you're the place I go to buy toilet paper. Well, that's important, and you want to sell them all the toilet paper they're going to need. Oh, and by the way, they're going to need more at home than they used to need at home, because they used to be in the office,
Right.
all week. And so, the various things that, you bring a lot of those needs that would occur during the day downtown, you bring those out into the suburbs. So just lots of opportunity to rethink, what is a day in life of my customer, and how can I serve that better and make it really interesting.
In a market like yours, a company like Metropolitan Market, it's like this is made for them, right?
Oh,
In
yeah.
so many ways, this is just made for the kinds of, in their case, upscale. They got specialty foods and stuff like that, but this is just tailor made for their kind of offering. In my market, it's why Wegmans is coming to town. It's why Stu Leonard's is doing a remodel. It's why a Wakefront ShopRite store is doing a remodel. And in cases of some, like, I hate to pick on them, but Stop and Shop, they operate two, barely mediocre stores in this marketplace. And if they don't raise their game, they are going to and innovate around this opportunity. It just is not going to go well for them.
I agree. I mean, I think it's never been, you've in the past, maybe you could be mediocre and kind of get away with it, right? You get enough volume, you squeeze enough profitability out of the store, it kind of works. But as the bar raises, as customer expectations raise, as retailers around you raise their game, you're not going to be able to survive being mediocre anymore.
Right.
That's just not going to cut it. So you've got to figure out, what it is you're going to be to the shopper, that you can do in a way that they, that they value, and that they reward you with their dollars. And just being there because you have stuff, with the way that retailers around you are going to evolve, that's just not going to cut it.
Yeah.
It's not going to.
Technology innovations around things like, pickup, delivery, e-commerce, basic e-commerce stuff, that's really important. Clearly, it seems to me in this new environment, which is really a new suburban model, but it's different than the old suburban model. Mm-hmm. Things like auto replenishment, something obviously you have a dog in that hunt, but auto replenishment becomes really important, especially if people are trying to figure out how to allocate their hours to things that are more important than walking up and down the aisles of supermarkets.
Yeah. I would say to that, just, like, okay, so a retailer can decide when it comes to just serving routine needs, right? The basic weekly trip, we know what roughly 70% of that's going to be. We can tune it, and make it auto replenishment and other tools. We can make it, such that the customer doesn't need to spend a lot of time on it. There's one set of retailers that will say, I'm going to offer you this new capability to free up time for you to make your life easier. Oh, and I have all these other things that I can do for you as well. And they'll be excited to spend time in there because they don't have to spend time on the other stuff. Or there'll be, a set of retailers that says, we're just going to keep giving it to you the way we did. And, to make these weekly purchases, and we're going to have to keep fighting for those purchase dollars. So I think, a lot of these capabilities, particularly as, the customer becomes kind of more consistently digitally engaged with the retailer, that's going to enable the retailer to connect with that customer in their daily life, right there in the community, in really meaningful ways. And retailers that's what you need to be focused on.
And it's not just technology, right? It seems to me this is the kind of environment where, I've been saying this for years, every retailer ought to have a food truck of some sort.
Absolutely.
Right? They ought to have a way to go out to the local the train station when people come home from work, the local little league game, the high school play, whatever it happens to be, the football games on Saturdays or Sundays, and bring the model out to them. It's really smart. It's what people want. And at the same time, raise their game in terms of whatever fresh food they're offering. And I'm not saying necessarily go really, really high end, but certainly you have to have some sort of differentiated model that the competition is going to find hard to replicate and to compete against.
I think one way to think about it is, technology can kind of automate the kind of routine and necessary functions of shopping, and almost like in a utility kind of way, right? So I can help you find things, I can auto replenish things, I can offer you, discounts and deals, via technology, and I can drive trips, help you organize things. Like all the functional aspects of shopping can be enhanced with technology, and then all the experiential and value-added elements of shopping, right? That's where you really want to focus those physical dollars and those physical experiences. And I think that's where you really develop that formula of, handling kind of the utility and functional aspects of shopping, via technology, and then enable these experiential and culinary and wellness, all these elements of the relationship, enable those to be really physical and really awesome.
Yeah. It's fascinating. At least it's fascinating to me. So I've been living in this house in this town for 39 plus years. And it's right now there's more, real estate development, commercial real estate development, always mixed use, almost completely retail on the bottom floor, and apartments above them, right? There's more going on in this town right now than there has in the previous 38 years. And it's extraordinary. Now, this isn't all tied to what we're talking about today in the sense that, real estate development takes forever. But like there's one complex that is already open, and they must have 6 restaurants in that place. They've got a Warby Parker, they've got a Sur La Table, which is going to have a cooking school, all stuff that when you look at it and you say to yourself, wait a minute, this is more than this little town needs. But easy access to I-95 and a growing population that's going to demand those products and services. And you can see that. Listen, my wife's a retired teacher. My daughter's a teacher locally. And, you can see when the parents come in, these are all parents who were in the city, and they're expecting from their local school districts that what they would have gotten in the city. And it's just it's clear as day.
Yep, absolutely. 100%. Could not agree more with that retail centers, have a very cool opportunity right now, to serve that right there local, with their customers. And you said, lots of mixed use being developed, and apartment occupancy rates are as high as, maybe not as high as they've ever been, but they're extremely high. Right. So these projects are generally doing quite well.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I think that to conclude by following the donut metaphor, right? Anybody can make a donut, right? It's how you make the donut tastier, different flavors, different shapes, different consistencies, different kinds of jellies. That's where I'm getting hungry saying it. That's where that's where a really good donut shop really, is successful, by making their donut not just the same old donut. And
Exactly.
and retailers need to, figure out, it seems to me, how to innovate around that in all sorts of different ways, whether it has to do with food, technology, whatever it happens to be.
100%.
Okay.
Well said.
There you go. I love it when you agree with me.
Of course.
Well, listen, this has been great. We actually, I'm not going to use the name, but we actually got through an entire innovation conversation without using the name of a certain Seattle-based e-commerce company, which is good. I think it's good. We talk about other things from time to time, although
It is good.
they give us lots to talk about. So listen, we are the next time we do an innovation conversation, we're actually going to be live together. We're going to be a grocery shop in Las Vegas, and we'll file a couple from there. So that'll be fun.
Very much looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing many of our friends there. And grocery shop is always just a great occasion to be together and experience innovation. And you and I will get to talk about it live, which would be pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Hey, have a good one. Thanks as always. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Kevin. You too.